Hi, my name is Adrienne Wilson. I'm with IdeateTV, and here with me is Marc Smolowitz.
Marc Smolowitz.
Smolowitz.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Marc, can you tell us about your film?
Yes, so I am the proud producer of Diamond Diplomacy, which is a feature documentary about U.S.-Japan baseball. So for 150 years, the sport of baseball has been the pastime of both the U.S. and Japan, and we have been tossing the sport kind of back and forth at the same time that we have been sharing this very rich diplomatic and complex history as two nations. So the film is quite a bold historical documentary, but also embedded with personal stories of, many baseball players, many quite famous, dating back, many decades to like the time of Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio, to the present of Ichiro and Ohtani, who are, of course, quite famous. The film has been in the making for more than a decade. My director is Yuriko Gamo-Romer, and this is our second film together on a sports topic. Our first film was called Mrs. Judo, so we went from judo to baseball. But Yuriko is a huge baseball fan, and the film features, the San Francisco Giants, the LA Dodgers, the Seattle Mariners. We partnered very closely with Major League Baseball. And it's been a huge success at festivals. So we're here at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival after having been on the circuit since October. So, we world premiered at the Mill Valley Film Festival, and we had a very strong fall. And now we're kind of in our second wave of festivals. Back in October, we were the runner-up winner of the Ken Burns Library of Congress Film Prize, which is a very significant award for historical documentaries.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're super proud of that. That was a really nice boost for us.
Yeah.
And since you said this will be published on Monday, so for your viewers, on Monday, go to Variety because our North American distribution deal is being announced in the trades on Monday.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Hello, yes. So it does happen. So feature documentaries can really land in distribution here in North America with a lot of love and care and hard work. Important that they play at good festivals. We've been in a mixture of mainstream festivals, documentary festivals, and Asian film festivals, and that's been kind of like our sweet spot, right? Is kind of appealing to all those different audiences. It's been a wonderful journey.
What drew you to these stories in particular? I mean, two sports documentaries in the past, and what about the sport draws you in personally?
It's funny. I think that, not a lot of people would look at me and think, oh, that's the guy that produces the baseball documentaries. But, I work on a lot of different kinds of films with very diverse filmmakers. And my own company is San Francisco based, and Yuriko is also San Francisco based. And I'm very talent driven, right? So I almost joke that I don't really care what film we're making. I'm more excited about the filmmaker, and I want to help the filmmakers sort of achieve their goals, their dream, right? And I had made a movie in Japan as a director many years ago, back in 2009, and Yuriko found me because of that movie, and because she was making a movie called Mrs. Judo that was also in Japan. So we were kind of like two filmmakers in San Francisco who had both made movies in Japan. We had coffee and kind of fell in love with each other, became good friends, and she invited me to be a producer on Mrs. Judo. And I love when you can, have these long-term relationships with filmmakers. So Mrs. Judo was such a positive partnership. In 2014, she pitched Diamond Diplomacy to me, and she had found this very rare archive of films from 1949 of the San Francisco Seals, which was the baseball team at the time, in color, touring Japan. And she never even knew that they had gone over to Japan after World War II as a kind of a bridge building attempt to reconnect the nations after the horrors of World War II. And she really got excited about this idea of, well, how can sports, be a connector, and, in times of war and conflict, and, how does sports bring people together? She's a huge sports fan herself. The film follows a lot of different surprising arcs, and one of which is we have a section about how baseball was popular in the internment camps for Japanese incarceration. So it really does a good job of really walking you through the whole history. And I mean, I remember when we started editing the film, I was like, wow, how are we going to get 150 years into one documentary? And we did it. It's amazing.
What stood out to you that needed to be told in this story, especially like, as you were saying, 150 years in one documentary? Obviously, things must have been cut or left out.
Oh, yeah. You're always making those decisions, right? I mean, we're anchored by two strong main characters, Mashi and Warren, who are baseball players, right? And so they really put the human face on what it's like for a Japanese player to come here and what it's like for an American player to go there. So we have that kind of exchange that really personalizes the history, which I really love. But I think what for me has been most unique and special is really, since we've been showing the movie at film festivals, is, affirming that our movie is actually landing powerfully in this particular political moment. Because we are living in a time of war and conflict, right? We are living in a very challenging planet where it's very hard to make sense of all of these big challenges right now, right? And I feel like our film is helping audiences kind of take a different lens on even the moment that we're sitting with now. Our film is surprisingly aspirational. It's quite realistic. It doesn't dance around the history. I mean, that. Like World War II, Pearl Harbor, racism, the internment camps. These are difficult subjects, right? But somehow when you look at it through the lens of sports, you sort of kind of start to see people's humanity a little differently.
Yeah, there's a nuance to it,
too. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you were saying that what draws you to work with someone is if you're excited about the filmmaker. Can you talk about that, what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I am blessed. I love my job. I've been involved in more than 70 films over the arc of my career, in some significant way, whether as a producer or an executive producer or sometimes a consulting producer. And I just like to go deep with people who are passionate about telling a particular story. Oftentimes for people, it's like their life project. I've had the gift of encountering those filmmakers who are working on something that, they're giving years of their life to this project. And I mean, I would imagine, there's hundreds of filmmakers here this week, right, at this festival.
Absolutely.
And many of them have committed to those kinds of projects. That is an extremely exciting prospect for a producer to work with an artist and help them achieve that, right?
Wow.
And look, I'm an expert on U.S.-Japan baseball. The gift of being a producer on many films is that I get to learn so much and go deep with so many different topics, different communities. The joy of marketing these films, like many of the films are very sort of decidedly niche. But my job as the producer is to find distributors and festivals that will help us kind of quote unquote cross over. I believe strongly in core audience and banking on core audience. So, obviously, Diamond Diplomacy needs to be at Asian film festivals. We need to be connecting with the community, right? But I feel like that's the place you begin because that's where you get the most love, right? And then you fan out from there and you kind of build. I think there's a real community building aspect to filmmaking that is inherent to the work that we do. And I do a lot of LGBTQ films. It's not all I do, but that's a perfect example. When a queer filmmaker comes to me and, the first thing I do is I talk about, well, who's your community, right? How can we build on your community? Because people respond to talent. They respond to films, of course, but they want to back you. You're the artist. We're very artist focused in this industry and in this market. And it's, talent is everything. And if people, when people discover somebody early, they're so excited, right? And then to see their development. Andrew Ahn spoke today, right, here at the luncheon. Perfect example. Now a veteran filmmaker, started his career in film festivals like this one 15 or more years ago. And look at the trajectory he's been on, so if you can, if communities nurture filmmakers, filmmakers nurture communities. And I think a lot of the filmmakers that I've been privileged to support and help develop their projects, it's that kind of dynamic where people are very connected to community.
That's amazing. Well, with your vast experience with your 70 films, do you still face challenges in filmmaking?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, I do. Yeah, filmmaking is not for the faint of heart. I mean, I'm based in San Francisco. I'm decidedly indie. I do a lot of work in LA, I do a lot of work in New York, and I do a lot of work all over the world. But I'm not in the Hollywood system. I've dipped my toe in that system a bit. I've done some movies with Hollywood actors. I've been fortunate to play in that, sandbox a bit on a few of the movies that I've made. I did one FX series. So I've done those things, but I feel most comfortable in where I am, which is making these movies that are typically with budgets that are under $3 million. I know how to make that movie very, very well, right? And it's so funny to me, people will write me an email on LinkedIn or wherever, and, they'll be pitching me their $30 million movie. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't mind, but that's not what I do,
Sure.
I know how to make these really, beautiful sort of middle independent budget movies, mid-sized independent budget movies, and that's my sweet spot. So I think once you get good at what you know that you are good at, like your career can soar, and that has been something that I have been relishing now for some 15 years. And my husband and I have the company together, and we kind of figured out a business model where we're able to help more filmmakers now more than ever. So we're touching at any given time like 15 projects. The way I describe our company is we're sort of genre agnostic. Like we work on both documentaries and on fiction. We'll do shorts, we'll do television. It's very eclectic by design and very focused on giving very customized help to each filmmaker. And I think I like that way of working. I call it boutique filmmaking in the sense that like it's hyper focused. It's really about connecting with the filmmakers closely. I'm super hands-on, and I much prefer it that way. And I think that's what gives me the resilience as a producer to keep going. Even like I have my tough days like anybody. I'm very good at fundraising, but I say that very cautiously because you can't be too overconfident. Because I was describing it to another filmmaker outside, like I have to be lovingly relentless in order to be able to keep fundraising.
Sure.
Because if I turn it into the thing I hate, like then how could I do my job? Every morning, what I do when I start my day is I look at every film and every filmmaker, and I just do a little check-in with everybody. I'm like, what does that film need today? What does that filmmaker need today? And, in a slate of movies that could be 10 projects at the same time, all at different stages, obviously not all 10 need to be the first email of the morning.
Of course.
Right? So it's my job to really be, approaching this in a way that is methodical, clear. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't feel like spinning plates. It really has to feel more elegant than that.
Sure.
I think a decade ago, 15 years ago, it felt like spinning plates. So for those of you who are learning how to be filmmakers or producers, it gets easier the more practice.
I feel like I could pick your brain forever.
Well, pick away. No, that's the gift of experience, is also being able to share that experience with others. I feel a little old at this event, which is sort of silly to even say it that way. But there's so many young, gorgeous, talented filmmakers here, and you're all fabulous. But that's really inspiring to a guy like me who's been doing this for 30 years. I love that there are so many people coming up who have stories to tell. And
it's exciting.
And we may all be from disenfranchised, quote unquote, communities,
Sure.
But it certainly doesn't feel that way when we're in these rooms together.
Yeah.
Like we belong in the center of storytelling, and like we get to decide that, So I don't believe in gatekeepers. I've never really bought into that part of the business. And as such, like I can meet those gatekeepers in any meeting and pitch to any of them with confidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you have to, because if you cannot see yourself on a different playing field from those folks, because they will respect you if you bring it.
So with Diamond Diplomacy in particular, what were there any challenges that you guys had to overcome with?
Oh my God, I have the story of the stories. So listen to this one. So we were funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We had a grant for $650,000.
Wow.
Not a small amount of money.
No.
In spring of last year, we were about maybe not quite 60% through our grant. President Trump and Elon Musk cut off all the NEH grants through that Doge initiative.
Yeah.
And all of our money was gone. in
Oh
a
my
heartbeat.
gosh.
Now we heard it was coming. We were sort of put on notice that this was happening, and I mean it was a heartache. I mean, we had 14 people working on our movie that we had to let go. I mean, some of those people have kids in college. Like, it's that,
Yeah.
you're kind of dealing with that. Like I feel like sometimes the administration, like, they, whatever their sort of political calculation is, like they're really hurting people, like by people losing jobs, by cutting off these lifelines of things to what they call our woke projects, right? I mean, we're a baseball movie. It doesn't get more American than baseball. And like, they cut off our funding.
Sure.
So Yuriko, bless her heart, my director, I encouraged her, and we decided together to be very brave and be very public about the crisis. We got her on NPR. We got her in the Wall Street Journal. We got her, in the Chronicle. We got her in a lot of media outlets, and our film got written about a lot as being one of the films that had its funding cut from the NEH. We had a great still, have great stills. That is super important. Every media outlet ran our still. And lo and behold, a very wealthy, generous philanthropist reached out to her. And in a matter of weeks, they joined us as an executive producer and solved our funding crisis.
Oh my gosh.
We got right back into post-production, and we finished our movie in time for an October premiere.
Were the 14 people still?
And we brought them all back.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. We brought them all back to work. And that was, like, to me, that was just, I mean, talk about making lemonade out of lemons, right? I mean, that was... and then we kind of became the poster child of the movie that sort of survived the cuts.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, you can wake up one morning and have the right-wing government cut your money because you're making a woke documentary about Asians, God forbid, right? And then a few weeks later, somebody who totally gets why your film is important, will enter the picture, solve your crisis, and that stuff doesn't happen automatically, right?
No.
It's because we built this enterprise for 10 years
Well,
making
and
this
also
movie. Yeah.
that you guys really, truly believed in what you were making and you knew what you wanted to say with it. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, our funding got cut and we don't know what to do with it. But it's another one to get a lot of people behind your message.
Yeah, and the whole crisis management piece is not easy for filmmakers. Like, it can be scary.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, deeply political fraught moment that we're in, right? Like, it can be scary to be public and be against anybody who could hurt you. So I'm very proud of Yuriko. I'm very grateful to that man, and he's actually his name is Glenn Fukushima. He's one of our executive producers now, and that was a financial investment in the film, but he's also been now very involved in sort of helping us in really deep and profound ways. The man is really connected in Japan. He's been making introductions over there. So that's the next wave of our film. So our film has had a huge U.S. presence.
Wow.
We've closed our distribution here. Next up, Japan. So we're going to figure out into 2027, what will our rollout look like there?
Did Glenn already have filmmaking experience, or was it just like a passion that he discovered along the way working with you guys?
He's not been involved in film as a cause.
Okay.
He's been involved in many other causes. He is a diplomat, very experienced one. He worked in the Clinton administration. So he really clicked into the idea of what the film is, which is the diplomacy piece, right? He is a rare, confluence of amazing gifts, in the sense that, like, thematically he fit with the film. Interpersonally, he liked Yuriko very much and kind of her whole story. I mean, one of my favorite things about working with Yuriko is barely 5 feet tall, right? And we have BTS photos of her on set shooting our movie with baseball players that are like
Towering.
6'9". Like, it's hilarious. And I think people don't expect, like, for a woman director to be the director of the baseball documentary. And there have been moments where people see the name Yuriko and they don't know what gender she is.
Sure.
Right? And so they kind of like,
they don't have any idea
until she talks, or we're in a Zoom meeting and they're like, oh, it's a woman who made the
breaking that glass ceiling.
Yeah, and she's a great sports storyteller. Like, this is what she's most passionate about, and I think she's talking about her next movie being about surfing. So pretty cool for a 69-year-old lady to be making a movie about surfers.
If she comes out to Hawaii, that's where I'm from. So
there you go. I mean, who doesn't love Hawaii? So we were in the Hawaii International Film Festival. They've really embraced our work. We love that festival. We were at Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, amazing festival in Arkansas, little town in the middle of Arkansas that's like a blue dot in a red state that has been supporting documentaries for many years. It's this film has really traveled and has really touched a lot of different types of audiences. Consulates and embassies love the film because it's all about diplomacy.
Sure.
In this moment, we need meaningful diplomacy now more than ever.
Of course, and also like good examples to show how it can be done or should be done,
and how it has been done in the past, right? And
absolutely.
I think that the U.S.-Japan relationship is a deeply rich one. Our two nations were once the worst of enemies, and now we have a deep and profound affinity for one another, and it's quite lovely to visit there. I've been fortunate to make movies there, to spend time there, and it's they're fascinated by us, and we are fascinated by them, and there's this kind of beautiful thing that happens when we interact, through film. It's a really, really sweet thing. It's funny. I was that gay kid who had the dad that was really into baseball, right? And I used to be like, "Oh, I'll watch baseball with my dad," right? So maybe I wasn't the someone you'd predict to be the producer of the baseball documentaries, but I've actually made a few sports films, and I'm really proud of that. And the thing that I've come to realize is that sports is a beautiful thing. Sports is extremely important in communities. It brings families together around something very positive. In the right circumstances, it can empower at-risk youth. It can change a person's perspective of how they relate to their body.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much good that can come from it. And there's a lot of money and a lot of stuff that comes with it too. But I think that there is something very unique about sports in our culture. And for folks who see our movie Diamond Diplomacy, which will now go into a wider release in September, I think you'll be really surprised by how inspired you'll be about, this history. And we all know that baseball is America's pastime, but do we know, like most of us as Americans, you'll say December 7th, 1941, and you know what that means, right?
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately know what that means. But if you see a film where that date is talked about in the framework of baseball, it gives you another lens to think about that history. So that's what our film is offering. It's a social history journey through the lens of a particular sport, particular communities that, is a pretty unprecedented way to think about 150 years of history. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Marc. For our viewers, would you be able to share where they can support Diamond Diplomacy and also follow you?
Yes. So Diamond Diplomacy, we have a website. So Google Diamond Diplomacy Documentary and you will most certainly find us. We are on Instagram. Please follow us. And spread the word. We've made a great documentary and we hope it touches your hearts. Thank you.
It was very nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you.